And so anyone out there listening who is starting a business, struggling in a business, doesn't feel the passion for your business anymore, not sure what to do, you're not connected deep enough to your why. Because when you are, and you're knocked down, you're going to jump back up faster than you were knocked down. Right. And you're going to say, hit me again, but you ain't getting me the same way because I just learned.
Mompreneurs, welcome back to another episode of the Good Enough Mompreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Angela Mashuli. I hope you are doing well. On this week's episode, I'm going to talk to Bella Vasta, an amazing mompreneur. She is a powerhouse, literally. She brings the energy. She brings decades of experience. She's helped so many people, and she has an inspirational and motivational conversation with me. She is a multi-business owner, speaker, author, and podcast host herself, and mom to a micro preemie born at 12 ounces. She is incredible. So before I bring you that interview, I want to invite you, if you are loving this episode, to remember to leave us a review. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an incredible episode. And then if you know somebody else who would find this podcast inspirational and it would connect with them, I would be so grateful if you would share it with them so they find it. So without further ado, here is my interview with the amazing Bella Vasta. Welcome to the podcast, Bella Vasta, and I am delighted to talk to you. You're the highlight of my day, honestly.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's been a day, and I'm like, I cannot wait to talk to another like-minded mompreneur who, you know, is trying to juggle their family and wants to inspire women to take action in their businesses, to start a business or grow their business. So I look forward to this conversation. So you're described as a powerhouse, female entrepreneur, multi-business owner, speaker, author, podcast host, and mom. And you are known as a pet business coach, but you definitely have lots of wisdom and insights that apply to any business. So welcome to the podcast. Thank you for chatting with me today. I can't wait to dive in.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start at what are you doing now? What's your business look like? And I'd love to hear about your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. Well, so what does it look like now? I have a pet business consulting company. It's called Jump Consulting, and it's organically developed surrounding the needs that I want. So I'll get into my whole entrepreneurial journey in a minute. But when I really I start marketing for other pet companies, and have based a lot of my business off of a one-to-many model. When I first started, and I'm sure a lot of consultants or coaches out there do that, they exchange time for dollar. And while you can still do that, there's a ceiling to it, right? There's only so much of you. And honestly, I do this because I love helping people, and I want to help as many people as I possibly can. Sure. And when you are doing one-on-ones all the time in the same area, it kind of becomes mundane and robotic, and you're saying the same thing over and over again. And people ask you the same questions. I don't care if they're selling, dog walks or widgets. Business is business. It doesn't matter what you're selling, Right. So I've really been strong on the one-to-many model. So we have a marketing agency. We also have a mastermind. I've got the podcast, and then I've got the most amazing team that helps execute all of it, because we are also a content that's where I would put the word powerhouse, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of content we have is crazy. Like we've got 200 YouTube videos, over 500 blogs, over 333 podcast episodes as of today.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of those episodes have a blog post. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's pretty massive. Um, and then we also have like our low hanging fruit, as we call it, like just the downloadable products, just
Mm-hmm.
answering most of the industry questions that people have. So maybe they don't have, or they're scared to invest because they don't know me yet. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they can get that kind of stuff too, which is always kind of fun when I'm
Mm-hmm.
out, with my daughter and I get an email that says, someone just purchased a $500 package or intensives. Sometimes they do
Mm-hmm.
intensives and that's a couple of
Mm-hmm.
$1,000s.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool to have a vehicle that is working for me
Mm-hmm.
without me physically being there all the time, because I've done the work ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to pause there. That's where we're at now, but that's not how we got there. Do you want me to keep flowing
Yeah,
or? Okay.
absolutely. Because I think I have a range of listeners from beginners to somebody who's already in the thick of it and trying to figure out the next step. So I like to talk about all of that and then give people an idea of what's possible.
Fantastic. Well, my journey started back in 2002. Okay. So that's 21 years ago now. That makes me sound really old. I'm 40 years old. I'll be 41 in July. Um, and oh boy, I moved up from University of Arizona. I
Hmm.
had originally chosen to go to college 2 hours south of my house.
Hmm.
And some search situations happened that caused me to move back home. And I transferred to Arizona State University.
Hmm.
Well, now that I'm a mom, I understand this, but I thought it was a total travesty that my parents would want to have a curfew on me and know that I was home safe every night. And so my way around that at the time was to not only accept an opportunity to sleep over with two white dogs, that's what they were to me at the time, but also, for those of you who are actually watching, I have the picture. These are the two white
Oh.
dogs. Yeah, one's a Pomeranian, one's something else. I don't even know. Isn't that terrible? I don't even know. But this woman would pay me $25 a night to sleep at her house, and she used to travel 3 or 4 nights a week for work. And I was like, I'll pay you. And what that did is it allowed me to go out and go to karaoke with my boyfriend and have him over and all of the things that like a 21, 22-year-old wants to have, independence, right?
Hmm.
And so I was like, this is amazing. And I didn't realize it at the time that like it never clicked for me that I have cousins and grandfathers and even my father. We're all entrepreneurs. So I
Hmm.
like to say that it's kind of in my spirit. I grew up in
Right.
such a way that my parents used to tell me to MYOB, which was mind your own business so much. They'd just be like MYOB. So it was like, don't be heard. And
Hmm.
so when I first started this company, and I wouldn't encourage anyone to do it this way, but this is just the way it happened for me. My why was to prove everyone else wrong. It was to hear my voice. It was to, I'll show you. Oh, they would like
Hmm.
laugh that I would be pet sitter and they'd still be like, you're going to college because you have to. God bless my parents. That was their like ultimate apex of their responsibilities, right? Get
Right.
your kid off to college. You did your job. Good. But here I am in Enneagram 8, which is a challenger. And I am like, why? I could teach this class. This is dumb. Tell me when I'm going to need history of rock and roll or history of Elvis. They're just trying to get more money for gen ed. Like it was just, or prereqs. Um, I definitely was difficult to deal with. And oh, did it come all back to me? And we'll get to that part. But so I started building this business purely off of you tell me I can't, I'll show you I can.
Yeah.
And also, the whole time my parents also were like, you need to get a good job, you need to get health insurance. I didn't know until I was at a networking meeting that I could buy my own health insurance. Granted, it's not as good as like a major corporation, but I could still get it, right? Like I
Right.
didn't need a corporation to give me health insurance. And
Hmm.
being so young and naive, that's what I thought I had to do. And um So anyway, so I started Bella's House and Pet Sitting. My parents used to call me Daniela Bella. My real name is Danielle, but I started going by Bella Vasta, and Vasta is my maiden name. And so, because everyone would be like, "Who's Bella?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess I am." Like, and so everyone's like, "Okay, you're Bella." And back in like the early 2000s, we weren't all up on Facebook yet. There wasn't social media yet. God, do I sound old? And so it was good
older than you,
networking.
by the way. So
it was good old fashioned networking. It was walking into networking meetings with a "Hello, my name is" sticker on that said, "What's your pet's name?" That's what I would do. And that's what I teach now too, because it's not about you. It's about the connections you're making. And in a mecca of networking, people would be so excited to go talk to the pet girl, because they also didn't like being there. They didn't want to be salesy. Everyone at the end of the day was striving for a human to human connection, not a business to business. And so it was, I made a lot of friends. In fact, I made a lot of friends that are still friends today, and that we're all kind of around the same age. We all got married about the same time. We all babies the same time, and then we separated for a while, and now we actually all of a sudden kind of came back. So there was really good seeds planted then. But, I had this one community. It was called McDowell Mountain Ranch. It had 4,000 homes. And I was like, perfect. I'm going to, saturate the market. I want to have a client on every street. And Angela, it got so crazy. I literally would drive around in my little Contour, Ford Contour, and Mercury Mystique rather. And I had a paper bag of like peanut butter, jelly, eggs, bread, potatoes, cheese. Like it was like my grocery store. And then I had a massive suitcase that had pet sitting clothes, clubbing clothes, and just regular clothes, and all my toiletries. And I was like a gypsy. I would go from house to house to house to house. And my parents would have this ongoing joke, like, is she in or she out? And I used to put it on the refrigerator so they knew like where I was. Again, wasn't GPS back then. Like they couldn't just like, Life 360 me.
Right.
So I built this thing. And at the time I was working at like I graduated. And so I started working at like Starbucks from 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. My parents were thrilled at that. And so I obliged them, and I tried to get a job at Paychex. And gosh, whoever interviewed me, they made me not a salesperson, which I probably would have lasted a little longer. They made me a payroll representative. So I got my own cubicle. And I'm not a cubicle kind of person. In fact, I lovingly say, I think that office rooms or corporate places, like they make me sick. Like they suck all the energy out of me. Like I can't even be in my own office at home too much. And this is my house. Like I have to, like, sometimes I take my big old iMac and I put it outside in my backyard, and I work out there to change my scenery. Like I have to be in a creative energy space. So anyways, so I did that. I realized it didn't work for me. That was terrible. I quit like on the spot. They wanted me to like, scan documents in because they were going paperless. And I was like, I'm not doing this for 2 weeks of my life. Like I'm out. And so from that point on, I was like, what do I have to do to make myself my own boss? And that's what I did. And a lot of it was coming from survival mode at the beginning. And a lot of your listeners might be having to make these choices out of survival mode, it's okay. It's not sustainable to create businesses off of that, or create businesses off of your own ego or your own reasons, or I'm going to prove it to you reasons. But hopefully I believe the businesses that last a long time are the ones that understand that, because without that, this is very high level here, but I think it's a really massive, unique thing that I can give to your audience, because I have been doing this 20 years, is that my why has changed dramatically. And if it didn't, I would have been out of business because I would have been doing it for the wrong reasons. And I think that's why a lot of people don't last long, because their why isn't deep enough. And so anyone out there listening who is starting a business, struggling in a business, doesn't feel a passion for your business anymore, not sure what to do, you're not connected deep enough to your why. Because when you are, and you're knocked down, you're going to jump back up faster than you were knocked down. And you're going to say, hit me again, but you ain't getting me the same way, because I just learned. And that's the difference. So So 2007 came and one of the national organizations in the pet world was doing a Business of the Year award, and I applied. And I also applied for the local, like Arizona Republic, which is the newspaper here in Arizona. And that year I got nationally and locally award winning. And so I got a lot of press for it. People started saying, hey, how do I do what you do? And I started talking to people like I am with you right now, Angela. And I got this natural high. I just was like, oh my gosh, like, wow, this is amazing. Like at the beginning of this call, these people were like desperate. They were dire straits. They were like, this can't work. And I got all excited. Like you said, the best part of your day, I get all excited because I'm talking to these people realizing, no, it's really not that hard. Like, let me give you hope. Here's exactly what you need to do. And then they would do it. And then they would come back and be like, oh my God, it works. And I'm like, no kidding. I don't know if I can swear. So that was like the PG version of it. But you know, I would imagine we keep it PG because there's probably lots of moms and kids listening. Yeah. But so it was really exciting for me. It was very exciting. And those years while I was still running my pet sitting company where we were going in and taking care of pets while people were away on vacation or long days at work and walking their dogs, I started doing this coaching on the side. And that's where I learned that lesson about like, you know, time for dollar only gets you so far. It's where I learned the lesson that me answering the same questions all the time is not good for me because I get put on autopilot and sometimes I miss the enthusiasm of it. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do. But, you know, I had a 6-figure, 10-employee pet sitting company. We were rocking and rolling day and night. The interesting thing a lot of your listeners might not know is that a pet sitting company is a 24-hour thing because it's 365. It's people sleeping over. It's morning, afternoon, evening. Dog walking is like middle of the day, Monday through Friday. So like, I always encourage people to think about what kind of operations do you want to run when they start them. But back then I was running it all day long, you know?
Right.
Now, during this whole time too, in the early, well, from 2002 to 2012, let's put it that way. I lovingly say I dated everyone over 6'2" on Match.com in a 10-mile radius of me. Because I had this mission. I, you know, grew up as this little girl being told that, you know, my sole job and purpose on this world was to be a good girl, to be seen and not heard, to get married and have a kid. And I'm sure your listeners can relate to that. Now, you know, again, my parents only knew what they knew. Like, I love them. They're great. Like, I get it. But we're in this stage now where we get to be a healed generation. We get to stop the curses. We get to consciously go through life and decide what we want. And being a good girl is not who I am. It's just not. And what I mean by that is that reducing what I want and what I need in life for what society tells me I should have, or for what my ex-husband or my parents or anybody else for that matter tells me. So it was this awakening that was happening. So I'm dating. I meet this incredible man. Even though we're not married, he still is an incredible man. He's the most amazing father. However, and we were definitely brought together to bring my child into this earth. So I'm coaching and I'm doing this pet sitting business. At one point, I even started a poop scoop company in Orange County because my friend from college was out there, wanted to start a company. I said, sure. That was short-lived because I sold it to him. It was too far away for me to really help, but I helped him get off the ground. So I say, you know, I had 3 companies by the time I was 30. And by the time I was 32, I was getting married once here in Arizona and 7 days later in a tiny country called Macedonia, which is just above Greece. And my businesses allowed me to do this. It allowed me to take a month off. I honeymooned in Rome, conceived my daughter there, found out the day I got back to the States after I was almost puking on the plane. You know, and it was a whirlwind. It was beautiful. It was everything amazing. And then one thing I will never say again, don't ever challenge God. Don't ever put this stuff in the universe. I stood in my family room right after knowing that I was pregnant. And I said, God, why do I have to wait 9 months for her? And he said, okay, daughter, we'll give her to you at 28 weeks, 5 days. And she will be one of the 50 smallest surviving female babies on the planet at 12 ounces. 12 ounces is the size of that LaCroix that's probably sitting on your desk or in your cup holder right now.
Right.
All right.
That's crazy.
10 inches is an inch shorter than a Barbie doll. Okay. My daughter literally was a fetus. Her eyes were fused shut. Her skin was translucent. Like, it was incredible. And, you know, it was also very scary too. It was very scary because everybody said she wouldn't grow. You know, we were all praying, grow inside of me. I had like almost no amniotic fluid. My placenta basically shut down and said, screw you. And they had to like cut her out of me. And we were even told, you know, when you have this child, it's don't get too attached. It's the honeymoon period. Micro preemies, not preemie, micro preemies do well when they first come out and then they crash. So your daughter's probably going to die. That's good that she's alive now, but she's probably going to die. That went on for 3 months. And it wasn't until the 3rd month where my nurse looked me in the eye. She's like, you know, you'll take your baby home one day. And I kind of looked at her and like all of this like weight lifted off my shoulders. I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like, you know, I'll never forget the day leaving the hospital without your baby. That was wretched. The whole thing, I was there every day for 8 to 10 hours. And my businesses allowed it, Angela. It was one of the biggest blessings. I would see, horribly so, I would come in and you could feel death because babies die in NICU. And it was this crazy, heart-aching, joyous, all kinds of things all at once. I was grieving the normal, you know, birth and all the normalcy, the first 6 months of having a child. I took her home on a quarter of a liter of oxygen and an NG tube, which is a tube that goes through your nose down to your belly, that I had to put in her. I had to swaddle her while she's screaming and stick this down her and tape it to her face and hook up her feeds I mean, we had people in our house daily that on our coffee table, I had, you know, these rocks with these pens in it with like flowers attached to the top of it because people needed it. Occupational therapy, vision therapy, physical therapy. There was like a state person who just kind of did it all too. And we had 40 hours of nursing during the day, 40 hours of nursing at night. And I was like, the only thing that I thought in my good girl mentality was that once I was married and once I had a kid, I would sell my pet sitting company, use that money as like a down payment on our house, you know, that was my contribution. And I would be a stay-at-home mom and wife. No offense to anyone who that is their calling.
Right.
I find that amazing. Honestly, I find it amazing. But I can't do that because there was this like desire, like this animalistic desire in me to pour into the world. And so we go through this massive trauma. I start healing through it because you gotta feel it to heal it. Yep. And medical trauma is the worst. Angela, I don't know if you've ever experienced it or your listeners or anybody.
Yeah.
But it's that trauma that happens again and again and again and again. It's not just like a single car accident event. It is you're in your sleep and they wake you up and they say, hey, your child like had to be revived again. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, how do I even sleep? You know? And so a big part of my story that I always tell from stage, in a context that pertains is, you know, we have all had trauma in our life, Angela. You did not have to have a 12-ounce baby. You could have stubbed your toe when you were a kid and it made the biggest impact on you.
If you're breathing, you have trauma.
Yes. And I believe that if everybody was courageous enough, Brene Brown it, okay? You're courageous enough to be vulnerable, that this world would be a whole lot better. Everybody would understand, why do I have this reaction? Why do I think this way? Where do these voices in my head come from? And if you want to be an entrepreneur, guess what? You ain't getting through it successfully unless you address your stuff.
It will hunt you down.
Anything that is happening or needs to be healed in your life will come out in your business. You tell me your business problems in the first 5 minutes, and I'll tell you what happened in your childhood.
Yeah.
It's just the way it works. And so there's some people that will be aware and conscious of that. And that is where kind of like one of the next levels for me happened. I started realizing this is only going to be as good as I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need to surround myself in an environment that works, which
Mm-hmm.
even meant my husband. I need to surround myself with other business entrepreneurs. I
Mm-hmm.
need to surround myself with like really good people and listen
Mm-hmm.
to what I listen to. The top 40 is not out to make you feel better. The top 40 is to subconsciously remind you of the love that you lost and the dog that died. Like,
Right.
do not listen to the top 40. Like, you really have to watch what comes into your eyes and your ears and who you're spending time with and what you're doing in your downtime. And everyone's very different, but and there's so much, Angela, you tell me, put your hand up if I'm getting too long-winded here, but
Oh no.
I learned lessons about loving myself first. And before I could even love myself, I had to figure out who the hell I was because
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was. I was what everybody else wanted. And it
Yeah.
came from getting my own coaches and
Mm-hmm.
doing that. I had
Yeah.
a year of my life where I made myself consensually uncomfortable. That means I agreed to being uncomfortable. I said yes to the things that I normally would have said no to because that's where I would learn the most.
Mm-hmm.
I went through EMDR therapy, which I highly recommend anybody does. I don't know if you talked about it before, put it on your show
Mm-mm.
notes. It is trauma therapy. And what happens when you go through a trauma, it goes
Mm-hmm.
straight into your brain. It doesn't process. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why you have PTSD, you have nightmares, smells, sounds, things can just trigger you immediately, and your
Mm-hmm.
body is viscerally there again.
Mm-hmm.
EMDR helps solve that. And the success rate is
Wow.
something like 80%. They used to do it on or they still do on military.
Mm-hmm.
They did it when a tsunami came through to a whole village in Indonesia. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it worked amazingly for me. I still have all of my memories, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't have power over me anymore. You
Mm-hmm.
see? And that is where it's amazing. Where I can also acknowledge things. Like, I know today I was in the orthodontist office. My daughter needs expanders. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at this hardware and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I also have a daughter, remember, who had all this stuff in her mouth when she first started. So
Mm-hmm.
she's had a lot of feeding aversions and like oral aversions. She doesn't use a straw. She's 8 years old. And while she can do a lot of things, there's other things she's just
Mm-hmm.
like, no. And I'm like, I start freaking out. I get really quiet and I get really conscious of what's happening in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And, my ex-husband, who's an amazing dad, is there and he's like, okay, you're going to be like Bumblebee, Transformer. You'll get, stuff in your mouth and it'll be great. And I'm looking at it like horrified. I'm like, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut right now. Like, I'm dealing with my own processing right now and I can
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge it. So they're like, so do you want to keep going today? Or I'm like, I need to process this. Like, let's resume in a week from now. But being healed, I can do that now. I can
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge when I start feeling this in my body and be like, okay, you know what? I need a timeout. I just need to and it's okay to
Mm-hmm.
ask for that. Right.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm jumping around a little bit, but so Olivia came home from the hospital. She was about 2 years old. And I had my friend come over. It was on Good Friday. So right around this time of year.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I had a friend over in forever because with a sick child at home, you don't want any germs. I mean, COVID came. I was like, I got this. Like, I lived this already.
Right.
Like, no problem. Like, don't come into my house, wear booties on your feet. If you're wearing a mask, like, it was like no big deal. So my friend came over. We got a little tipsy off of like one bottle of champagne and like orange juice because I hadn't drank for like probably 2 years. And I was like, I started running the numbers and I was like, I don't want this pet sitting company anymore. Like, I'm done, done. And it was always my goal to do that. I didn't have the time or the opportunity because I was fighting for my daughter's life. So long story short, I ended up selling it in 30 days. I interviewed 5 brokers. I went with the one that said that he could get top dollar in cash because I didn't want payments. And lo and behold, it all happened exactly the way it was supposed to happen. And then about a year after that is when my ex and I decided to get a divorce. And Olivia was about 3 at the time. I truly believe that him and I were brought into this earth to bring this child into this world. I don't know anybody else on this planet that ever would have fought the quote unquote system with me like he did. I feel that a lot of other people I've had in my life would have been drunk, spent money, absent, just, broken up with me. Like they weren't strong enough. And I'm so lucky and fortunate and blessed. And my daughter is too, to have him in our life. But he and I just, it didn't work out. And it was a tough decision. We did a lot of couples therapy. So then I had to figure out what it was like to be a single mom and have these businesses.
Right.
And show up as Bella online when my life was falling apart, when there was some pretty heavy stuff going on in the background. Yeah. And that wasn't easy.
Right.
It wasn't easy at all. But again, I had to dig my feet in, and I was like, am I doing this just to make a sale? Or am I doing this because I have an undeniable purpose being on this planet? And that is to inspire hope into as many people as I possibly can through leveraging what I've been going through, but also through my massive capacity that I finally accepted is a God-given gift I've been given. It's not that I'm too much. I'm not too much. I am just enough.
Right.
One of the things that made me really click this, Angela, was shot glass and big gulp. Have you ever heard about this? I actually have a TikTok I made on it. It's not my idea. I don't know who came up with this idea, but basically, like, just picture, and there's all different types, but we're going to do extremes for the understanding of this. Let's say that you're a shot glass and you've got the capacity of water of a shot glass, right? And you're talking to a big gulp, and you're like pouring all of you have into this big gulp, but the big gulp's like, yo, what? Like, that's all you got? Like, come on, more, let's do more. Obviously, I'm the big gulp, right? On the other side, as a big gulp, I'll go up to a shot glass and I'll be like, here you go. And they're like, oh my God, you're too much. You just flooded me out. Like, I can't take the capacity of you. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the shot glass. There's nothing wrong with the big gulp or anything in between.
Right.
It's understanding the capacity that different people have. In a spiritual world, some people might call it the vibration levels, Sure. So there's a lot of different ways of looking at it, of course. But the minute I realized there wasn't anything wrong with me, I'm not too loud. I'm not too bold. I'm not too fast. Everyone's like, you're so fast. Can't you slow down? I'm like, I don't have that speed. Okay.
Keep up.
People are always interested. Funny. Like, they're always like interested to see those days where it's like Sunday football day and I'm laying on the couch, or like, we're just kind of like shuffling through and they're like, you have a lower speed. I'm like, of course I do. Like, I have to like regenerate too, but I need stimulation. I've realized that about myself. So overall, it was, I'll prove you wrong. And then it was, let's see what I could build. Then it was just pure survival mode.
Right.
And then it became embracing what I am and trusting God and trusting the universe and trusting. Right now we're in the middle of a launch. And I'll be quite honest with you, I'm trying to make space as we reorganize my company because we are growing. And part of making space is allowing other people the space to do things. Okay. I can't swoop in and do it if I want to build them up. As a lot of you can imagine, I'm that kid in school where we're like, group project. I'm like, great, give it to me. I'll let you guys know when it's done and I'll put your name on it. I'm sure a lot of you guys listening feel that way too. That's why you're entrepreneurs. That's why you're listening to this this podcast. Right. So, it was such an evolution. So now, I luckily, a lot of the stuff that's happening in my company, I show up for a lot of it. I don't have to get stuck in the mundane tasks. My team has been absolutely amazing. There's no way I could do any of this without them. And I take my appointments mainly on Monday, Tuesday, because I have my daughter on Monday, Tuesdays after school. And so it's like, I work really hard and then I transition into mom. And I've kind of set this precedent in my company because I can that, hey guys, we work the first half of the day. If you need things decided on. They need to get to me on these days because this is my decision-making mode. This is my creativity mode because I need time to create and write and do videos and like things like this, right? They're exciting. They make us really happy. I was asleep on the couch before this because I didn't sleep well last night.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Taking a nap. And then I was like, oh, it's video. Hold on. I'll be 3 minutes late. Let me just do a quick, mom makeover here. But it's, you design, there's a list still listening. Thank you. But I want you to know you can design a life, because I just feel like a filibuster this whole thing. You can design a life you want to live. And the hard part isn't designing that life. It's knowing what life you want to live.
True. So, yeah. How did you get to that point where you realized you needed to design your life?
Yeah. Because it was out of control. And I was like, all right, listen.
Yeah.
I now don't have my daughter 50% of the time. He always has her Wednesday, Thursday, and we alternate Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's a 2-2-5 schedule, if anyone knows what that is. And so I was like, all right, so if I have her every Monday, Tuesday, what am I going to do to be like the best person? Well, I'm definitely going to do all of my meetings. I'm going to stack my meetings during the day. So I'll do all my coaching calls or my podcasts or my hot seats for my mastermind. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is left open. I don't have scheduled meetings unless I put them on there, because every other Wednesday to Sunday, I don't have her, which means I can travel. So let's figure out how I can embrace this new lifestyle of mine. And I want the ability to be able to travel, whether it's locally or maybe it's a staycation at my own house. And I decide I don't want to work these days. And now I don't have to keep clearing my calendar. Yet, if I know I'm not going to be going anywhere this week, I know that, yes, Angela, we can do this podcast on a Thursday because yes, my daughter's with her dad right now, and she's in school, but this brings me joy, and I love doing this.
I know. Yeah.
So it was really taking a look at, you get fed up to the point where there's so chaos in your life, all of a sudden you thought you were going to be married forever and you're not. All of a sudden you thought that you'd have your kid all the time and you don't. That is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And so I had to figure out my own balance. I also had to forgive myself. There was a lot of forgiveness. Now, at one point I just decided, you know what? No, like when I don't have her, it's my time to refresh and get better. Like, so I can show up the best way for her. It's actually a blessing that many parents don't have. Okay. And so I'm going to embrace that. My child is 8 years old. She is a love and a light, even at the orthodontist. Like she's just cheers for people. She cheers for herself. She goes to gymnastics and she cheers for the girls in front of her. She is such a loving spirit. And, but she's also ADHD and she is on the spectrum, but she's on the spectrum. Like she's super smart and remembers like what parking level we parked on at the like airport like a year ago. Like it's insane. And so with that, it's high stimulation. It's very, there's always something going on. My thoughts are not my thoughts when I have her. She's not a typical kid where, she's an 8-year-old. Like I look at other typical 8-year-olds and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like you're like 15 years old to me. Like, I'm like, you can do that without help, So she's a special kid and she requires a lot of my energy and I have the capacity for that, but it's a blessing that happens. So how do I figure that out? It's simply, okay, what do I need to do to show up refreshed and the best version of myself?
Yeah. You didn't allow yourself to get stuck in your situation. You didn't become your situation, which so many people often do. It's so that really talks to that. Yeah. I mean, oh my gosh. Yeah. I never realized the healing that's got to happen or will happen if you want your business to grow.
Yeah.
I did a podcast
without a doubt, because if people think right now, everybody think, what is the number one struggle I have in my company right now? And you might say, oh, it's getting clients. Okay, cool. Let's go there. What is it about getting clients? Is it asking for the sale because you don't think you're worthy? Is it striking at conversations and doing all of that because don't think that you don't have enough confidence. And where does that come from? That's just like one short example, but basically everything that you're afraid to do is you're your only hindrance to it. You really are.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't come from learning more. Stop learning. Stop. Like, what is your level of learning versus implementation? Okay. There's only so much that a sponge can absorb. After a while, then it gets like flooded out. It can't absorb anything more. You must squeeze it out and water your land with that knowledge. If you don't, you will not get anywhere.
Yeah. If you don't take any action, for sure.
Yeah. Are you a control freak? Okay. Then I'm going to show you a business that does not have good systems because they feel like they're the only ones that can do it right. Okay. Yeah. Where's that going to get you? Because you can go further with 10 people doing a great job rather than just yourself, So there's so many examples I could give you.
Right.
But yeah, it comes and it's never done. It's never done either, Angela. If you talk to me 10 years from now, I'd be like, oh, little girl, I wish I knew this when I was 40, And that's the beauty of it, though. You're never done if you don't want to be done. What are you reading? I can't read. I can listen. I listen to 2 books a month. What are you listening to? And it doesn't always have to be business. It can be something else that gets your brain going. Did you know? And not necessarily you, Angela, but your listeners. Do you know you can reprogram your brain?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
You have to. Yes. Honestly, you have to unlearn all the garbage that kept you safe and got you through childhood. And then you have to relearn what really supports and helps you grow as an adult. It's like,
yes, absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely. And that's key. The conscious part of it. And I would say for anyone who's just, this might be new, maybe this is the first time you're listening to Angela, go out and listen or read Brene Brown. Courage, is it Courage book? Into the Wilderness, any Brene Brown, honestly.
Yeah, she even has a Netflix special.
Go get it on Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, she's amazing. But yeah. And she has a scientific background. If this is like too woo-woo for you,
Making content, sorry. Yeah. But yeah, it really is. And the minute that you can start diving deep, the beginning of it is just, absorbing it and realizing it and, oh, wow. And being aware of it, I hiked a mountain on Sunday. How? Mel Robbins, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Love Mel.
I got up off my butt. I got in my car and I was like, am I really doing this? Like, just drive. I got there and I'm like, so, okay, we drove here. We can turn around and go home now. Get out of your car. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And the next thing you know, you keep 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 in yourself. The next thing you know, you're at the top of the mountain. It's literally exactly the way life works. You have the power in you. You have the power in you. You could be in the worst situation. And, literally I had a 12-ounce baby on life support for 6 months in the NICU running 2 companies. I had my life fall apart and my safety and security and going through a divorce, which I know so many of you out there have done or are going to or are contemplating.
Right.
Life is meant to be happy. Even if you didn't come from a happy place, you are designed to have a happy life and you're in charge of that. You don't like it? Don't do it. You're worried about what other people are going to think. Who cares? Because what's going to happen is and I acknowledge this a lot right now, Angela, I feel like there's someone out there that needs to hear this right now. When I'm doing things and I say, okay, I was in Tulum. This is kind of sounds silly. I just took my first solo trip, scared the bejesus out of me. I had the best time of my life because I love myself. And I went to this one party. It was like this beach party and it was like EDM music and like you get in trance. And I was like, spent $80 on this ticket. I got dressed up. I did my whole ritual of getting dressed up. I love like getting my hair and makeup, like doing it myself, like, and just going through that whole, like, I love the ritual of it. I get there and I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't feeling it. They're 20-mile-an-hour winds with a yellow flag up. Like, so first
Yeah.
of all, my hair, I'm known for my hair. Like, it just was not happening that night.
Yeah.
There were lots of couples, and there were also lots of groups of people. And there
Mm.
wasn't really a place for me to like post up. And I started
Mm-hmm.
kind of feeling a little uncomfortable. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't because I wasn't comfortable with myself, but like I just didn't feel like I fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And the old me would have been like, feeling guilty. You're doing something wrong. You just bought
Mm-hmm.
this for $80. That's a lot of money. You need to stay. You need to get your money's worth. You need to stay in this uncomfortable position. The
Mm-hmm.
other side of my heels was like, but I'm not comfortable. And I think I'd
Yeah.
rather go listen to music on my patio, on my day bed, back at my amazing hotel that I
Yeah.
spent way too much money on. And you know what I did? I left. I drank 2 things of water because I had a wristband for like 2 drinks. So I got water. And I left. And when I went home, my little girl inside of me was celebrating
Mm-hmm.
because it almost makes me tear up, honestly, because that's how connected I am to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because my little girl was seen, heard,
Mm-hmm.
and felt. And I made a decision based off of what she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, all those shoulds, all that
Yep.
guilt, all
Mm-hmm.
of that, what, like, the mom's voice in my head, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's $80. That's a lot of money. What if it doesn't work out? Well, you know what? It's money. I can go make it. Like,
Yeah.
um, yeah, wow, that's interesting that just made me emotional.
Well,
But
it's
what I'm saying,
interesting
guys,
because
is that
I
like
had a similar experience recently. That's
yeah.
funny. But no, go on. What were
Yeah.
you gonna
So when
say?
what was your experience, Angela?
Well, I was invited to a conference and it was so low vibe and so mediocre. I stayed for a little bit and I left. I said
Yeah.
I was teaching people there things, and then I was
Uh-huh.
like, this is not worth my time, and my time is more
Yes.
precious than this. And I left.
Yes.
And
Yes. So
it
you
was
honored
so
yourself.
empowering. But
Yes.
I think at one point in my life, I would have been like, no, that's okay. I don't want to make any la da
Yes.
da.
People
And
pleasing.
I was like,
Yes.
bye.
Thank you
This
for
is,
sharing.
I'm out. Peace.
Yes. Yes. When this turned on, it was my coach, John, who we were supposed to get together that night. We didn't often get together face to face, but I just was not feeling like it. And
Mm-hmm.
he called me and he was staying at a hotel and he said, you know what? I got this bed bug problem and I can't meet tonight. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, it's all right. I didn't really feel like going out anyways. Like, it's okay. And he's like, hold
Mm-hmm.
on a minute. If I didn't tell you about this bed bug problem, would you still met me? And I said, yeah, my word is my bond. Well, I mean what I say, all this stuff that I was brought up with. Right. And he goes,
Mm-hmm.
he
Mm-hmm.
goes, what is that teaching yourself? Your yes needs to mean a yes and your no is a no. So it's F yes or HE
Hell
double
no.
hockey sticks no,
You can
right?
say that.
I mean, it's those 2 things.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, you're right. I was like, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to let you down. He goes, that's not your emotions to manage. And I was like,
Right.
yes, I am in empathy rehab right now. You're right. I'm not responsible for other people's
Right.
emotions. I'm only
Codependency.
responsible for my own. Okay.
Right.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Amen, sister. So
Yep.
it's all of these things, when that happens, now I can go into my business and
Mm-hmm.
my people know that my yes is a yes and my no is a no,
Yeah.
which means they can trust me. You need
Right.
to be able to trust your leader.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm sure there's someone in your life where you ask them to do something, much like Angela just said, she's a recovering too, is you ask someone to do something, but you almost talk them out of it because you know that they don't want to say yes, but they're saying yes to you. Then you feel guilty because you can't actually trust because it's not a hell yes or a F no. Right.
No. I mean, I
So,
turned away 2 people yesterday, made certain offers, and I was like, no.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
All of this
great.
comes back to business. It all
It
comes back to
does.
business.
Because then
And
you
this is how
make
you have the power and
yeah,
the
you
ability
make
to change
yourself,
your neural pathways.
yeah, but you make yourself available for what is truly right with you and aligns with what you want to do. And,
Yep.
I
You have to get vulnerable with
100%.
yourself to figure out what does align with you. You have
Right.
to get vulnerable with yourself to know yourself. we're always talking about vulnerability and
Mm-hmm.
communicating with other
Mm-hmm.
people, but you have to do it with yourself first. That's how you
You
become
do.
magnetic,
You
because
do.
people know they can count on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, this podcast it took a little different route than I thought that it would, but that's totally fine because I think it's important for you to share what you're called to share. And, whoever's supposed to hear it is, will hear it. I mean, that's the
Mm-hmm.
important part of this platform. But so Bella, how is this like? Can you imagine not having taken this journey and gone from not becoming an entrepreneur? It sounds like it's
No.
just like a non-negotiable for you.
No, I lovingly say I'm unemployable. So I know I'm a
I
realist. I
love
know that
that.
at any moment, anything could be taken away from me, right?
Right.
Like I have had a really big advantage where I've been able to organically grow things. I've never been
Mm-hmm.
in the position that some of your listeners might be in, where
Mm-hmm.
they're looking at, like, they were either fired from a corporate job and they're trying to start
Right.
their own company as a
Mm-hmm.
mom, a single mom maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or they want to quit and they want to start their own company and they're
Mm-hmm.
teetering and they're just so
Mm-hmm.
scared, right? And they feel like they're
Right.
about to dip. I never had that. And so
Yeah.
I've been lucky in that way. I'll give
Mm-hmm.
it that. But
Right.
I've been able to do it for 21 years and right now because
Right.
I've kept evolving. And
Right.
I thankfully, like I said, I'm not going to be the same
Mm-hmm.
person at 50 that I was at 40. Who knows what God is in store
Yeah.
for me for that, right? Because
Right.
I would never have guessed that this is my life. And I would
Right.
seriously love my life so much. I actually have, and I don't want this to sound silly, but like, I feel like I've worked so hard at creating a life that I want to live.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually how do I say this? I've eliminated myself from so many people, because so many people are working the Monday to Friday. Think, oh, it's Monday. Thank God it's Friday. Or, oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, I have to ask for time off, or all this stuff. I've realized even in my dating life, I need to surround myself with people who have time and financial freedom. Even
Mm-hmm.
relationships, my platonic relationships, right?
Yep.
Because my rhythm, my being able to go away Wednesday to Sunday, it doesn't mean I can't with other people, but it
Mm-hmm.
just means like our lifestyles kind of line up a little bit more. I don't have the typical traditional lifestyle, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. But
Yeah.
now I have to, like, form people around that. And with my daughter too, it's like, as a single mom, it's hard,
Mm-hmm.
like
Sure.
it's hard. That's why, like, the one to many business model works very
Mm-hmm.
well,
Mm-hmm.
because that might fluctuate or go up and down, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not banking on my next one-on-one coaching sale to pay
Mm-hmm.
my bills,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I
Right.
can pick and choose who I spend my coaching energy with, because I
Mm-hmm.
position myself that way.
Oh
So
yeah.
another
Mm-hmm.
thing is if you are out there trying to figure it out, what kind of content are you putting out on a consistent basis?
Mm-hmm.
Your community needs to start trusting or knowing, expecting things from you, because that
Mm-hmm.
builds trust. So
Mm-hmm.
they know that they can listen to Bella and Your Business, my podcast, every single Thursday it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, sometimes that podcast is 12 minutes. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. Okay. It
Hey.
doesn't have to be like this
Right.
long, big production. It's a
Mm-hmm.
way of touching them. And honestly, like, what we're doing right now, it's a
Mm-hmm.
great way to get introduced to people through
Yeah.
through
Mm-hmm.
audio.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I mean, I totally want to respect your time. And, the interesting thing is we could have gone over all of these tips and talked about all these different strategies, but what we talked about is really the important stuff that you need to do as an entrepreneur, as a mom, because how has it transformed you as a mom for your
Yeah.
daughter? I mean,
100.
yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's being I was really scared, Angela, to take trips with my daughter,
Mhm.
just me and her.
Sure.
When I first broke up, and I was like, I looked at my ex-husband to be like, I was brought up probably like a lot of people our age were brought up, right?
Hmm.
Like, I mean, it was shouting at, it was go to your room. It wasn't any gentle parenting. It wasn't any, what are your feelings? And that was my default in my head.
Right.
And he wasn't. And I always
Hmm.
looked at him and admired him for knowing
Hmm.
what to do. And so I was really like scared to be a single parent because it was like, I didn't have the best.
You didn't trust
um
yourself.
yeah, yeah. And so going on trips with her and doing things scared, being consensually uncomfortable, knowing
Mm-hmm.
that, what's the worst that's going to happen? Okay, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work out. We end up back in our hotel room. Is it
Mm-hmm.
safe? Yes. Is it nice? Yes. It's a Marriott in San Diego Bay Harbor. Like, yes, like we're going to be okay. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And so being a mom through it made me do it. It made me give myself grace.
Mm-hmm.
I was also empowered to change the pattern. So maybe I do lose my temper at her getting ready
Mm-hmm.
for school in the
Mm-hmm.
morning, like
Mm-hmm.
every parent does. But you know what I can do?
Or if
I
they
can
don't go
say,
to school, as is
yeah,
my case this
okay,
morning.
okay. Well, I can also say, you know what? Mommy's really sorry she yelled at you.
Yeah.
She shouldn't have done that. She lost her
Right.
temper, and
Yeah.
mommy probably needed a timeout.
Yeah.
My child will
Yeah.
say, Mommy, you need a timeout. Like, I mean, not often, but we have this agreement because, like,
Right.
I didn't get that when I was a kid. And
Mm-hmm.
I get to, just like business, just like creative, right? Become aware what kind of relationships
Yeah.
you want to have. I don't tell my daughter, and
Mm-hmm.
this is where my ex and I differ, and that's okay. But, I hear all these things. It's like, instead of, don't hurt yourself. Are you okay? It's like, how are you feeling right now? I'm feeling excited that I'm walking on this high beam and I could almost crack my head open. But, like, okay, we're not going to teach her how to be fearful. We're going to teach her how to tap into how is she feeling right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're going to say, okay, you had a bad day at school. How did
Mm-hmm.
that feel? What can we do to make it better? Not
Mm-hmm.
you disappointed me, or go to school and make me proud that you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my feeling, not her responsibility. Right. And
Oh
so I
yeah.
get to take what I've learned. It's
Yeah.
a mom lesson:
Yeah.
communication, trust, respect, messing up, acknowledging
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. You can only do that when you have strong mamas around you too.
Yep.
I'll
Totally.
forget the first time that he took her out of this house. I collapsed and I sobbed and I called my friend. And I know she won't mind. Her name is Jen Herman. She actually wrote Instagram for Dummies. This is what I
Oh.
mean by having powerful, bad people in your life. Okay. And
Right.
she was like, listen, mama, you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
fine. She's
Mm-hmm.
like, when she's not there, you need to focus on yourself. And I had a couple of F bombs for her. And I was like so angry. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But I understand it now.
Oh
And I
yeah.
give the same exact advice because you
Right.
can't change your situation, but you can change your attitude.
Sure. And I mean, entrepreneurship allows you to do that as a mom, to keep your identity, whether you have your kids all the time or not. And we talk about that too. It's like you
Yep.
can get lost in motherhood
Yep.
if you allow yourself. And then
You
it's
can.
time for
Absolutely.
them to to leave. And you're like, well, what did I do with my
Yep.
life?
Yep.
And you could be
The
serving so
majority of
many
people
people.
that work on the majority of the people that work on my team, they also are moms.
Yeah.
And some of them are single moms.
Yeah.
And so we have this agreement. Like, I don't care if we're in our meetings, like
Mm-hmm.
our internal meetings, and your kid is on you, or as long as we're not like interrupting our message,
Mm-hmm.
and they have their earbuds in, because I do drop F bombs. Like, that's just who I am. And but we all know, like, what's our rhythm? Our rhythm is that we work a lot in the morning. In the
Mm-hmm.
afternoons, we kind of don't. Why? Well, because we're usually carting the kids around and doing dinner and all that other stuff.
Yep.
So that's become part of my company culture. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been led because of me.
Yeah.
So again, guys, you have the power to design the you want. Think about what kind of life do you want to live. And
Yeah.
it's not black and white, it's fluid.
No.
There's gray areas. Right now
There's
we're
no
working a little
one
later
one
because we
way to
are in
do it.
launch mode. No,
There
no,
isn't.
there's not. There's
Yeah.
not.
Well, Bella, thank you so much. I mean, you just like poured your heart and soul out and shared your story. And I'm sure so many people can relate and find inspiration and, part of their own story in that. And that's what's so important for me on this podcast. I want anybody to be able to turn it on and identify and find the inspiration to move forward in whatever their endeavor is. So, where can people connect with you, listen to your podcast? It's amazing. It's on my regular rotation now because,
Oh,
you
thanks.
share so many valuable tips there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
the best way to connect with me and even DM me is just go to Instagram, Bella
Mm-hmm.
Vasta. So it's Bella, Bella, Vasta, V like in Victor,
Mm-hmm.
ASTA,
Mm-hmm.
like pasta with a V. And you can get me there and just tell me that you heard me on this. Don't be bashful. You can totally DM me. I answer back personally. And then also that's basically also our content curator. So you'll
Mm-hmm.
see the podcast on there. You'll see what we're
Yeah.
up to. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said before, you might not be in the pet space, but you can definitely still get value. So right now we're
Yeah.
talking a lot. Our focus this month is a lot of social media tips and
Yeah.
three things that you need to do on Reels, I think was the podcast that came out
Yeah.
today. So
Mm-hmm.
it's everywhere you are. I might give a lot more pet examples, but it relates everywhere. So thanks for that,
Yeah.
Angela.
Yeah. You can absolutely put in your own business in there. And so I love it. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure. It
Thank
was a
you.
great way to end my day because it was crazy and hectic and all the things. So I always appreciate connecting with other like-minded mompreneurs and doing our thing because it can be lonely,
100%.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is a good way to like create a network, I mean,
Yeah.
literally go through Angela's podcast, like connect with the people that you feel like are your spirit animal who talk to
Yeah.
you. Correlate, no, curate your
Curate.
feed
Yeah.
full of like-minded people like that.
Yeah.
Um, to, I'll leave you with a challenge because I can't ever like not just talk to people or whatever. Like I tap into things. If there's one thing that I want you to do after this podcast, you guys, is I want
Mhm.
you to be conscious of what is on your news feed and in your notifications. And there's a little button on the notifications where you can say, don't show me this notification anymore. Okay.
Mhm.
That's one thing. The
Yeah.
second thing is start intentionally following things that you like and engaging with them so it keeps coming up on your thing, and unfollow the ones you don't.
Right.
Okay. And the third thing is go to your phone and own your notification settings. I don't let anything notify me unless it's
Mhm.
certain stuff. And you can also automate it so that the notifications turn on and off, right?
Mhm.
So like I sometimes just completely turn all my notifications off when I'm going deep into creative mode. But like,
Mhm.
your Facebook notifications, do you need those popping up every day? You probably don't. So you
No.
could turn those off very easily. You just hold the icon on an iPhone and then it will
Mhm.
pop up and you can like choose. It's that easy,
Right.
guys. You don't even
Right.
have to go searching for it. So start controlling your life. Start controlling what is coming in through your eyes and your
Mhm.
ears. And that
Yep.
is the simplest way to start doing it. When
Yep.
you have to go fetch your email, you have to open up your email to see what comes in. My emails do not pop up as they come.
Mhm.
Absolutely never, because it's just too much. It's like, oh
Mhm.
my God,
Yeah.
oh my God. And then on your emails, start pressing that unsubscribe button for the stuff you don't care about. There's no
Right.
FOMO because you can always opt back into it. They're
Right.
going to let you.
Right. There you
So,
go.
like, start doing that. It's going to change your life.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I talk to so many moms who hate social media. If you
No,
hate social media, then
you
you
ain't
need
doing
to
it right.
change, right? You need to change what is coming in and
Yep.
curate like the message that you're getting and the people you're following. And yeah,
Amen,
100%.
sister. You're not in the right groups. You're not surrounded by the
Right.
right people.
Nope.
If you hate it, social media, like I don't even get news on social media.
Yeah.
I knocked all of that out. I don't care if it's left or right, center.
Yeah.
I didn't even know anything happened at the Capitol building until I was scrolling TikTok that night. And I was like, and I had to Google it because nothing came
Right.
across on my news feeds. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I do have alternate profiles. And it's
Hmm.
really funny how drastically different the experience is
Hmm.
depending on what profile you're on.
Oh yeah.
And so you can curate it, guys. You
Hmm.
are in control. You need to step up and take those keys into your hand.
Yes. Listen to Bella, guys, because it is so true. It's 100% true. It will change your life, honestly. It really
Yep.
will. I get made fun of for not being in the loop or not seeing some post for a couple weeks. I don't care. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter to me.
No, no, it doesn't.
But people think it's hilarious. And, I'm the
Yeah.
one running a couple businesses.
Yeah.
not them.
Yeah. But that's what you're doing. What you're doing is you're
Right.
creating a sacred boundary. Who was it? The lady who Eat Love Pray.
Mm-hmm.
I saw her speak at HubSpot a couple years ago. I was also
Mm-hmm.
speaking at HubSpot. She was one of the keynotes. They have the best keynotes.
Oh,
They had like the year before that was like Michelle Obama and like Oprah. It was like, I mean,
uh-huh.
like epic.
Right.
And she said, when you draw a line around something, you're making it sacred.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a boundary. You're just saying, this is my sacredness. This is, and you can make
Mm-hmm.
anything sacred. I'm getting goosebumps again.
Yeah.
And and that's what you're doing with the notifications, whether they're
Mm-hmm.
social media or on your phone. You're saying, my attention is sacred, and
Mm-hmm.
I control what is allowed to touch me.
Right. And
You
you
know,
should take that power. That's total empowerment.
it is. It is.
Yep.
We could talk forever.
I
Thank
know,
you
I
so
know.
much.
Thank you so much for your time. I want to respect your time, and it was
Yeah,
lovely meeting you and having you
you
on the
too.
podcast, Bella. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you so much to Bella Vasta. Isn't she incredible? I don't know. I felt like our entire conversation was a mastermind. And I feel so honored and privileged to be able to have conversations like Bella on this podcast. And if something resonated with you, please let me know. Post it on Instagram. If you took Bella's challenge and you applied it, let us know and reach out to us on Instagram. I will leave all of Bella's connections in the podcast notes, and you can reach out to me, Angela Mashuli, on mombusinesscoach.com. You have links to all of my social media. You can email me there. You can see how to contact me. So let me know. And I have another incredible podcast coming to you next week, and I've started a new series of a short mini-sode on Fridays to keep you going over the weekend. So thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I feel so privileged to be able to talk to such amazing women and to have you as a listener. So thank you so much. Just another reminder, please leave us a review if you're loving the podcast. It helps other mompreneurs find the show. And then definitely subscribe and share with anybody that you know. So I appreciate you. Keep going, mama. Keep doing what you're doing. You're not only qualified, you're probably overqualified. So keep that in mind. Don't forget it. And listen to this podcast to keep you going. So thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing week. I can't wait to talk to you next time. Bye.